was first contacted, it was about doing woodworking repair. The handles were broken off and they needed a case. So I came down to see Steve and looked at it, and we went through a process of trying to figure out what would be best, how it would work, what his needs were. And when all of that was gotten all together, I was given the scroll and asked to do the work. And I looked at it mostly as a woodworking project because it was sort of in my my comfort zone. So when I took it into my shop the first time, and I said, well, the first thing I'm going to have to do is unroll it and to take the handles off so I can work on them. Well, in this process, I noticed that the scrolls had quite a bit of damage, and they weren't attached to the dowels, which we call Etz Chaim, which is tree of life. The Torah is also called the tree of life, but those are also called, I guess, because they're wooden. And they weren't attached to those poles in the correct way. And this started a process of research and contacting other people who do this kind of restoration work, and a lot of internet searches, and asking around in the community and to find out what needed to be done. And initially, the project was going to be I think we originally wrote a 3 or 4 week project, which actually turned out to be closer to 8 or 9 months or something like this. But within that, the first thing I did was very simple. I repaired the handles. That was the easy part. But what the scroll involved, the scroll repair involved, was getting more of the parchment, which is it's actual animal skin. The ends were rather frayed, badly frayed, so they couldn't be sewn back onto the handles. And what I did was I got material. I got some of this material, which I then attached onto each end so we can reattach it. And then throughout, there were different rips and tears, holes and little patches, which I also replaced and repaired. The learning process of all of the different things and the way you're supposed to do it in the correct way was really, it was fascinating for me, because I really had no idea. And it's kind of a speciality also, in that it's not just common knowledge. Some of the things are very difficult to find out. Most of it, or a lot of it, is sort of like guild work. You learn from somebody who does it, and it's passed on like that. Some of the interesting things is that when you cut any of the material, because the scroll is considered part of the altar, you bring no materials of war, so you can't use any metal to do cutting or things like that. And luckily, in our technological age, we now have ceramic knives, which we had just bought for our kitchen, so I was able to get around that, because traditionally they'll either use silver-plated scissors or other materials like that. So there was quite a bit of the learning process of those things. The material, what they traditionally use to repair it is hide glue. It's a special hide glue. It comes from regular hide glue, which is very common in a lot of repairs. It's rendered from animals. What you have to use in this, of course, is kosher hide glue. It has to come from only specific animals. I was able to get some of that, but because of the size of the gluing area that I would have to do, I felt that would be a little bit too brittle. So there was a conservator a number of years ago who came up with a material, heat-sensitive material, to actually fix fine artwork. And I was able to find this out through, once again, on the internet, find somebody who was an editor of leather magazine, repairing old leather and really a conservator of old leather, and gets into the parchment, and he was very kind in giving me a lot of knowledge. I was able to get some of this material, so and I found out that it was a kosher way of doing it, so it was an allowable way of doing it. So I felt like I really was taking something very traditional, but adding a lot of, our time into it. I like to do that with my work also. It's based in tradition, but we live in modern times, so let's use whatever we have for to our advantage. After getting it all back together, the next part was putting the case together, which once again was that back into my comfort zone. And as with a lot of pieces, it started out as an idea, kind of grew, and as these projects do, they kind of have a way of defining and designing themselves, and they want to look a certain way, and I feel like I'm just a vehicle and had very little to do with it, and this is what turned out. And then on the inside, to try and keep it as natural as possible, the mantle is just wool, so it's a very natural product. All of the wood on the case, to keep it green, was all FSC certified, which means it came from renewable sources, which is one of the important things that we want to do. I always feel as though whatever we put together should last at least as long as the tree was growing. So whenever you cut down old growth and use something, you have to think about that. So you have to use it for something that's going to have to last at least that long. It pretty much came together like that.